Was there anything in the documentary that you were unhappy with?
Yeah, of course there is. You can't tell a nearly 10-year story in 82 minutes or even in 6 episodes. When the podcast came out, people are constantly talking about sort of this 9-year relationship, decade-long relationship. When you're talking about romantic relationship, it was only right at the end. Immediately, everyone jumps to the wrong conclusion.
How do you think you've been portrayed?
Well, I am a victim. What I don't do is walk around with a victim mentality. I don't see how that's going to help me. I'm not taking on people's cases. I don't want this to be the rest of my life.
Did you demand anything to be taken out that was inaccurate?
I did. I didn't think the ending was powerful enough. If you listen to the podcast and you listen to this is like drama-fied. And I said, I know you guys want drama and high whatever, but I want the truth.
Bobby hasn't spoken to you since about it, even though it did impact him as well. Surely he would assist you with a case, no?
I would have thought so. I am disappointed. I'm not going to pretend.
When you look back at this whole thing, did you ever look at anything and see red flags or think, Jarl, maybe that was a little bit far-fetched?
Yeah, for me, the most crazy thing was...
What's up, people? Welcome to this week's episode of the Indy and Doctor podcast. You can see we have a special guest, probably the most viral sensation known to the world right now, Kirat Assi from Sweet Bobby. Kirat, hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm okay, I think.
Oh, you got a radio voice on us. Okay, that's
Have I got radio voice on you?
Yes, you have. You went hello. You were not saying that originally.
Listeners.
You were all fine and chill.
I was like, well, good now, right?
Exactly. That's the answer we want. That's the answer. I think that is the best place to start. Good now. How actually are you?
I don't know. I really don't know. Just taking it as it comes. That's it. That's all I can say. It's been a bit crazy the last day. Yeah, it's taking it as it comes.
For those who don't know, we are filming this the day, 36 hours after release?
That's right, yeah. Literally, yeah. So it's been a crazy 36 hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
How much sleep have you had or not had?
Very little over the last, probably a few hours, I'd say. I tried to be normal today. I got up early and went to the gym, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Have a normal routine. Yeah.
Have a normal routine. Yeah, just got to be normal, right? I am.
And when you were at the gym, did you get any is that?
So my gym family, so I've joined a new gym recently, but I've gone with my old trainer, and the new gym and the gym family is really, really nice. It's my safe space. And I did have one lady, she's a lawyer, she came up to me and said, she did say, we'd like to talk to you at our law firm about coercive control to understand it better. That was really nice, really positive. But everybody in the gym's really nice. It's a really nice gym family.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so you had a normalish type day today.
Normalish. Got lots of hugs, but yeah.
Fair play. And do you have with your phone, obviously, your phone must be blowing up. It was blowing up just before we went on the pod as well. Do you have this is the time I'm going to look at messages, respond to messages, or are you constantly constantly?
I'm trying. No, I'm not somebody that is glued to my phone. So I was sitting waiting on the wrong link.
Guys, ਤੁਸੀਂ 8:30 ਵਜੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਹੋ ਜੀ? I'm very busy, okay?
You even sent me a chasing message. I'm like, the nerve. The absolute nerve. I've been waiting here since 20 past. Yeah. But you joined the Google Meet and not the link to Riverside.
I was sitting there waiting, so I thought I might as well just a couple of people. So I've chosen to respond to people who are in my close circle.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't respond to everybody. I will at some point. I will one by one go through, just thank everybody because it means a lot. It does mean a lot. People have come out the woodwork. And on socials, I haven't really, obviously I'm not checking socials, though I have been guilty of checking, not a couple of things popping up in the feed as soon as I open something. But there've been lots of messages on the socials, and that's all I check. My socials are still private. Even though,
and it's probably better you have it that way.
Absolutely.
That's what I want, though. So, thanks for the 1,000 requests and follow requests in the last.
Yeah, how much has that gone? That must have gone up and up and up and up.
Yeah, it's just crazy, and so I'm trying to just dig through sort of the people that matter in between. And there's a web page as well, so people are emailing into. There's a specific email address for helping anyone. So people have been emailing there with their own stories and help and sudden realizations that they're the same things that's happening to them. So that's quite scary.
It is quite scary because obviously you're not the first person that catfishing has happened to, and this is what I got from when Indy, was at Netflix and speaking to yourself. A big part of why you did this is about you wanted to raise awareness massively, almost spotlight this issue. And now you're just seeing, and even like in 36 hours, that's happened to me, that's happened to me. Oh my God, you said it. Now I feel like I have the confidence to share it with other people as well. You're giving people permission to say, oh, with the which in our community, certain things are just like, we don't talk about this. No. Just deal with it yourself kind of thing.
That's a huge problem, Sadevas. It's like, even when I went through it, I had to go through, I needed something formal, which was the police thing for me. And then I was still left in silence. What do I do? How, I felt intimidated. And it was a case of, I need to find somebody to help formally. And luckily, one of my clients, I didn't know he was a lawyer.
Okay.
And Holly, he was like confused. How was I like me and not married? And, typical nosy, that kind of thing. Sorry, Amrit. But it's so much
He's like,
trouble.
why not making sense?
It was like, puchi this again. I was like, so, how come you're not married yet? How come? And, I was just giving one-liners. Yeah, I had a stalker and it was a bit of an intense thing. And, that's it. And just leave it there. Because I was so scared of I wasn't scared of it. I'd already dealt with the not being believed, and people were just saying, move on in the close circle. Just move on now. You just got to get on with your life. But then I was finding, so whether it be work, whether it be this, whether it be that, the gap in my CV. How do you explain any of it without referring to this?
Yeah, and concisely, right? I mean, you can give a lot of detail, but it's not like it's an 8-9 year story. Exactly. So to be like even when you say stalker, that's not the
real thing.
Even the Netflix documentary, even the podcast, like maybe a book would do it justice. But like you said, there's so much.
The Chronicles.
Chronicles of Kirat. There's something you just said there, which was you felt intimidated. Who did you feel intimidated by?
Well, you've got to remember you've been talking to somebody who you think is going to be your partner. So in that last bit of that long period, when you're in the relationship part of it, in that last bit, you share things, you talk about things, and we're not, people are constantly talking about sort of this 9-year relationship, decade-long relationship. It really wasn't like, when you're talking about romantic relationship, it was only right at the end.
Yes.
And immediately everyone jumps to the wrong conclusion. Before that, it was just, first 3 years, it was Durondi. He had his family, he's got his own wife, I had my own thing going on, and it was just or my wife's pregnant, or this is happening, and just like little bits of news, and you're like, oh, that's nice. Here you are. Yeah. Or do you know somebody that does this? Yeah, here you are. I've got this person. I don't know if they're any good to you. Just like you'd normally
casual
do.
Chatting, which you would like now and again. And there might have been weeks or months where you're not speaking, but then you pop in, pop out. Yeah.
So, it's just like that. And because there's no Durundi's a rishtedar, and it's like, fine. You think, okay, cool. But then, that's when it got intense. And in that period, when you're with a partner, when you enter a relationship with anybody, a romantic relationship, let's say, you're making yourself vulnerable to that, vulnerable to be with that person, because that's what a relationship is.
It's the very nature of it. Yeah, you expose yourself. Yeah,
it's the very nature of it. So, obviously, not being in a relationship with that person, when you realize this person who's been doing something horrible to you is in possession of information.
Leverage. Yeah? Lots of leverage.
Now, I didn't have this scenario because I didn't do anything puta, which is why I feel like I should be the one to. Well, I don't should be, but that it's okay for me to talk about this, because lots of people be shamed for sharing nudes or sharing videos or whatever it is. I didn't. So
Netflix asked you, didn't they? And you're it's an appropriate question.
I found that kind of weird how they jumped straight to that, and respect to you for not taking the bait.
Yeah, for me, it was like, well, do you want to tell me first? Like, how long did it take you to be intimate with your partner? When did you share your first kiss? When did you first jump into bed with them? What did you do with them? It's like, really? Is that... And given
but to give people a context, because obviously what we see is a full edit, right? And obviously when you're shooting with Netflix, it's long takes which are cut down. So that question, how long had you been talking before? Was it literally really just random and you didn't expect it?
They threw it in. We talked about it, and they knew, like, we have like you do a pre-interview phase, and then you sit, and that was done with somebody else, Kiran, a girl called Kiran, and then And that took forever. And then the filming was 5 days. And that was 5 full days. So from that, you've got what you've got in the documentary. It could have gone any which way. It could have been told through any strand, whichever perspective. It's, that's down to the director. But yeah, I didn't think she was going to be asking it, but she asked it. And I was like, well, I'm just going to be me and say what I want to say, which is it any of your business? Really? Just like what you do in your bedroom with your partner isn't any of mine. It's like, we don't go around asking people that. So why and this is the thing with journalists and people online. It's like, if you remember, my partner was on his deathbed. He was paralyzed when we got into a relationship. Yeah. He was going to die. Bedroom antics are the last thing on our mind.
Yeah. It's context people.
It's like, hello. But
no, what do you think happened? Huh?
It's just like stupid, isn't it? It's just like, I don't know. But I felt like because I didn't do any of that I feel braver to more, I feel I have
able
less to risk.
By being
by
so
doing
open.
that. When you think of revenge porn, it's people who are in a relationship. If you literally put it in black and white, if you wanted to use that crude example of personal information, they can't be more personal than an intimate photo. Before it's, if you've been used to control somebody, that's coercive control. When it's shared, it becomes revenge porn, right? So before that, if someone's using that to control you or scare you or silence you, that's all coercive control. Coercive and controlling behavior. So if you think of it that way, it's just personal information. And like in our community, you might have come home one day and said, mum's annoying me, this happened, or da-da-da. But if someone wants to cause a problem in a study family, which a study community, which is just one little bit. It's a karshi, isn't it? It's like
there's karshi, and then there's taking the biggest wooden that big one the Karan's moving there.
What you're talking about is Nagar Kirtan when you're making the cha, donga.
Yes, that's big one.
Yeah. You need proper muscle for that one.
Kirat Kendi, and then it's
or any tiny thing can get twisted out of. And when somebody wants to do that to you, to control you, they will. And you're scared of even the smallest girl that you've done. You might have had a bad day at work and so-and-so is annoying me. My brother's annoying me, or like this has happened, or, you like the things that you should be able to talk to your partner about, to vent about.
Not think. Like it's not, you shouldn't be consciously thinking, what should I should not say.
Exactly. And you think, even those little things are going to get used against you. And when you're a very family person and those things, like your family matters and all these things, because it won't just affect you, it'll affect everybody. It'll affect the person you have apparently been talking about. But even if they don't care and you don't care, the community will make something of it, right?
Community always cares. Community always cares.
But
So
it's that kind of thing. And that's what you're scared about. That's like, for what? And that's her knowing what matters to me. All those things are important, and understanding the dynamic of our community and our family, even because obviously she's family.
Yeah.
She knows exactly what she can use to silence me or to scare me.
I mean, that part is obviously a lot scarier. That outside of what happened, she must have known other intimate galan grown up with you. Like you said, there's a whole barrage of...
Not really, because I wasn't close to her.
She didn't know anything else?
I wasn't close to her. She would have known like stuff that goes on in the family, or, like things happen in families. But she's a lot younger than me. Like I said, she wasn't immediately close, but, I have a first cousin that was at school with her. She had other cousins at school with her. My own cousin was working in the school. There's like a community gurdwara. Oh, my mic's going, but gurdwara.
That's cool.
But the gurdwara community, we only saw each other at extended family events. And I happened to see her because I had there was a project I was running at her school with a guy who was running, the government used to have a program called the schools clusters. And the person who was based, this area cluster was based at their school. Just so happened that once a year I'd be working on this project in her school. So she would have seen the final year they were involved, and she was head girl, so she was involved in a meeting.
Okay.
But yeah, but all the teachers were like, oh my God, she's so clever. She's so clever. And I'm
You're
like,
like,
yeah,
yeah,
she's my cousin. She's my cousin.
She was very, very clever. Yeah.
English ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਸੀਂ clever ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਚਲਾਕ
ਨਹੀਂ but yeah ਉਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਹੁਸ਼ਿਆਰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸੀ ਚਲਾਕ and ਹੁਸ਼ਿਆਰ, you know, it's a fine line. It's
two sides of the same coin. That's what
exactly. ਦੋਵੇਂ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਆ.
Absolutely.
Was there anything in the documentary that you were unhappy with, Kirat, or anything in the podcast you were unhappy with in terms of how things were portrayed?
Yeah, of course there is.
Okay.
Of course there is. But then, like, you can't tell a nearly 10-year story in
82 minutes.
In 82 minutes, or even in 6 episodes. When the podcast came out in 6 episodes, I was like, but that's like 5% of the story. And then when I was being approached, because so many people approached me for a documentary, so many companies, and then I had Netflix as well. So it's like companies and then Netflix, right? So you know it's going to go out if you do it there. With all the production companies, it's like it might not happen. You might do it, it might get shelved, it might not go out. So I don't want to put myself through that and
makes sense.
Nothing happened with it. That's why I went straight to Netflix then.
To the biggest.
Yeah.
ਇੱਕ ਪਾਸੇ ZTV, ਇੱਕ ਪਾਸੇ Netflix.
Not even the same
it's like,
thing.
It's like that sort of quality, isn't it? But it's like, yeah, so that's it. And the only reason really is because you've got a bigger platform to talk about this. I mean, who wants to put themselves through what I'm seeing online now about me? You know, like, who would do that? Why would you do that? It's painful.
That's a fair question, you know, because I guess part of what Indy asked there is when you've seen it, you've heard obviously the podcast. So when you see yourself, how do you think you've been portrayed? How have you been painted? What's the picture?
Because you say yourself, you're not a victim as well. But it feels like there is that kind of slant that's put on it, like Bachari, when you say, I'm not that at all.
Yeah, I am a victim. Like, technically, I am a victim, right?
From a definition perspective, yes.
Yeah, and there are days when I'm still angry. There are days when I'm still upset. But what I don't do is walk around with a victim mentality, because I don't see how that's going to help me. I don't see how that's going to help anyone. I don't see how I'm going to progress, because we're responsible for our own progress.
You said there's a point you said right at near the end of the Netflix documentary, something like words to that effect, where you said it's my responsibility for how I lead my life going forward. Now it's not Simran's responsibility; it's no one else's responsibility.
No.
So and that's a great thing. I heard Will Smith say it a while ago, and he said the same thing: is where you can be angry at somebody else, you can blame somebody else for your circumstance, but it's not their responsibility for your happiness or and that. But again, very easy to say. But to actually be of that mindset where, no, actually, like you said, I think you were standing on a bridge and you said, I'm 44 now. Am I going to be a mom? And I'm trying to do everything I can to get everything, back on track.
Yeah.
And that's exactly, the message that I loved seeing, that you're like, okay, yeah, ho gaya. But here's what I'm making because I don't want it to happen to other people, number one.
Yeah.
But number two, I'm Kirat. I'm going to live my life. That's kind of what I took away. Is that what you wanted portraying? Is that the kind of...
Yeah, I'm happy to help people. I'm happy, but I'm not taking on people's cases. I don't want to be an activist. I don't want this to be the rest of my life. I want to have my life back doing the things that I enjoy doing. Like, I was at radio today. I've said I want to be grounded, and people are like, oh, don't go to radio. It's going to be dangerous. My mum was messaging me through the show going, Tika Sara Kuch, Tika Sara Kuch. I'm like, yes, no one's going to do anything to me in the studio by myself. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's a phone call. I'll put the phone down. But yeah, my listeners are lovely. They've known me for 20 years. It's
the regulars. Yeah. Yeah.
The regulars, the new ones, whatever, it's just such a nice, I do radio because I like making people happy. Right. I like making people happy. You don't know when you're doing radio who you're making people happy, but I've loved radio as a medium since I was a kid, because I listen to radio and you see me smile. I laugh out loud all the time when you're by yourself. That person's communicating to you one-on-one.
Yeah.
But actually talking to a load of people, but it sounds personal, right?
Yeah.
That's why radio is such a beautiful medium when it's live. And people drop me messages all the time. Like they think they're in conversation with me and I've got a show to do, but everything I say on air, they'll answer back to, it's like, wow.
Kirat, are you speaking to me? It feels like you're speaking to me one-on-one.
It's like, I'll say, oh, what you're doing, all time ho gaya, roti khana time, shayad tusi kitchen roti bro again, then you get, what everybody's making for roti.
How did you know, Kirat, the camera lage hue hain?
It's great though, right? It's so personal. It's so sweet, and it's so nice. And I'll play like wild music because I have like the wild side of me, and I'll play like a hardcore like drum and bass mix or something like that. And then you'll have an uncle just saying, but then you have an uncle just saying, "Bahut sona gana si," you have a 60, 70-year-old calling, "Bahut sona gana si." I'm like, really, you like that?
Bahut badhiya, tusi na dung 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 kita. I really like it,
But it's like, that trust has been built up with the listeners because they know I'm a bit crazy. But they're like, "Sun ke dekhiyo, just try it. Jane acha lage, theek hai, koi nahi. But ek baari sun ke dekhiyo, to sweet."
All I'm imagining when you're saying that is I'm like 70-year-old babbe putting it on for the 70-year-old bibiyan. Gana suni tu, tu Kirat ne laya.
I get so surprised.
Black Sabbath playing.
Yeah, I do take risks on my show. I'm not going to pretend. Let's not pretend.
Kirat like, is hafte London vich carnival hon lag gaya. Sare buzurgan nu invitation hai tusi carnival aao.
But I've played. So people talking about chutney now. Years ago, when I used to run Black History Month in Hounslow, and the black community introduced me to chutney music, and then there's Punjabi chutney music. And I played, there's a track called the Bhangra Party as well. And I took that to the radio station and I played it during Carnival. And it's like, it's Punjabi. I was allowed to play anything Punjabi. So I played it.
Technically, it meets the criteria. Yeah.
Exactly. It's a party. I like to have a party in the studio by myself. So it's like, cool.
Oh, man.
So this is me, right? So why would I want to be a victim? Like, why would I want to have victim mentality? Why would I want to just be happy, right? So
it doesn't seem as though you did this for the reasons of chasing clout or fame or anything like that. It's not something that someone would voluntarily go through in kind of happiness or willingness of just being like, yeah, this is a really fantastic story of mine. Please come and see this. Oh, by the way, I'm just telling it to the public for some 2 seconds of fame. It's not like that at all. But for some reason in the brown community, from the stuff I've been reading online today, because I typed it into Twitter, I typed it into news articles, etc. And the brown community love pulling people down for what they do. And it's very clear that people were saying, how's she so stupid for falling for this? Why did she do this? Why didn't she see anything like this? And it's just, I don't think people have an appreciation for being in it. And when you try and explain to people from being in it, they still don't understand and they probably never will.
Well, it's how you explain it to people, right? I think, obviously, this story's been told on a mainstream platform. It's not been told from a desi perspective. It's not like ZTV making a drama serial, is it? Can you imagine how that would be? But it's they probably they'll love watching all those crazy serials and believe anything on the crazy South Asian channels or Punjabi channels that they watch. They'd be addicted to those, which is the most ridiculous storylines, the ridiculous plots and everything. Yet something that's true, which is factually evidenced, which is hard to take. They just want to bury their head in the sand. And they just can't believe it happened to them. And I've had victims I've met even who've wanted to apologize to me, who have, and from the podcast, they wanted to apologize to me because they thought it wouldn't happen to them. And then they've gone on a dating app, met somebody within 10 days, shared their whole life story with them, done whatever with them, and then realized it's a really dangerous scenario they're in.
Wow.
And then come back and then suddenly remembered this podcast and felt bad for saying
for judging
it would never happen to me. And it's those very people, and I'm not going to sit here and say I told you so. I feel bad for those people, but this is the point. I think My Civil Lawyers put a video out today, and I was watching it while I was waiting for you. But I was watching it while I was waiting for you, and he says anybody, it can happen to anybody, any kind of fraud, any kind of manipulation using the internet can happen to anybody, and we just seem to think it won't happen to us. You can be as whatever as you are, but
switched on and
Yeah. And even now, I'm like 20 years, I've never had a public profile. I don't care. I honestly don't care. And even now with all this, lots of people have said to me, you should make your profile public and do this and do that and become an influencer and do this. And do you know something? I've done this.
Yeah.
I don't need to, like you're all talking about it. I'll share what I want to about with who I want to on my pages because I know who's on there. I know what I can comfortably and safely say. And if it goes out from there, it's going to be from one of those people. Right?
Yeah.
So, that's a good point.
And that's how I've always worked.
I think you said it really well just a few sentences, which is it's the not having the willingness to accept. हो सकता नहीं ये होया नहीं गलत फहमी है ऐदा नहीं होया ये story बनाई drama ही है. Like they oversimplify, and I think obviously again like you said 6 episodes, a Netflix documentary is still going to be a simplification of what happened. The true extent. And I remember a bit in the Tortoise Media bit where I think they had like forensic psychologists or psychiatrists talking about analyzing the case, and they were saying the extent to which this has been created is like you cannot, until you start drawing these things out, you cannot fathom, you can't comprehend, your mind can't comprehend the level. So I think for Ambanda, when they hear it, they're like, and they just, they casually just forget that hindsight is obviously a very beautiful thing. And, obviously when you look at certain things, you must be like, oh yeah, I'll tell you as a doctor, right? When I was listening to the Tortoise Media stuff, I was like, yaar, bande nu heart attack hoyi janda, stroke hoyi janda, marta hi nahi. I was like, literally, I was watching it. And then I remember, because I watched it last night in preparation for this Netflix bit. And the bit where I'm having a heart attack now, I was like, no, I'm having a stroke now. I was like, bro, how are you typing? I was like, this does not make sense medically. And I was watching this and I was like, hey, bande nu ki hoyi janda. And then he keeps surviving as well. And I was like, it's just madness, man.
That was the thing with me. Because at one point he was constantly having like these seizures and he was possibly going to die. And this was the bit when he was going to die. So we know he's in palliative care. And we were trying to get him over to the UK or get me over to New York to the hospital.
To be
and
with
the
him,
consultant, because he was like, I just want to see you once and that's it. And that was his dying wish. And it was like, okay. And so we were trying to do that. And but the thing is, something like that would happen and I'd be told he's in so much pain, in so much agony, and then he'd survive. And I'm like, and at one point, and obviously I've not told this bit, there's so many bits that will make much more sense to people if they knew everything. But there was one bit where again, it was like a third time it happened. I'm like, this is crazy. Why doesn't he just like, sometimes you think, we say, ਉਹ ਆ ਬੰਦੇ ਦੀ ਇੰਤਜ਼ਾਰ ਕਰਦਾ ਸੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਤੇ ਗੁੱਸਾ ਆਇਆ ਫਿਰ then he let go. And it was like
dignified and
and it was like and it's like maybe it's that. So I decided to, like, I've never been this nasty and it killed me because I'm a kind person. And I thought he keeps holding on. If he's holding on to see me and he's in that much pain and we know he's going to die. I would, in his
best
awful
interest
state, in his best interest, I had a massive argument and I was really nasty and I was like,
to not give him a reason to linger.
And then it was
I get it now.
Do you know? And I was like,
that gets dangerous.
And that was scary. And I did that. And I thought he's going to die. And it was upsetting for me to do that. And I did that. And then the consultant told me, oh no, we didn't tell you. He's making progress. We put him on a trial.
No.
Okay. And initially when he was diagnosed, I'm like, isn't there a trial he can go on? And I'd asked that like a few months back, like, isn't, like medical trials or anything like that.
I mean, that's a realistic thing and they do happen.
Yeah.
And the fact that you position that word and then later maybe using your words back.
Later,
now he is in a trial. You're like,
I was sitting there researching them. So I was actually online researching medical trials and I was like sending examples of like, could he be part of this? Could he be part of this? Could he? Because he was like, if I die, I'd like my body to be given to medical research. That was his thing. So it was like, okay. So I was like, let's try a trial. It's like win-win for him in that sense, right? So, but that happened. He's like, we didn't tell you. And I'm like, why didn't anyone tell me then? And
you tell me everything else.
Yeah, he's making improvements. And it was like, he's making improvements. And then I had that guilt of being so nasty hanging over me. And I'd always said throughout the whole thing, like, I can't forget, like, that was one thing, like, please forgive me. I can't, it's hard for me to forgive myself for what I did then, but I did it for a good reason.
But I think the intention, that's the key here. Your intention wasn't nasty. Your intention was actually something at a much higher level.
Yeah. But then remember, none of this is real. So I'm being put through all of that.
But in the moment it's real.
Yeah, but in the moment, it's very real. In the moment, it's extremely upsetting. And you're going to remember like constant stuff like this, where you're made to feel guilty or something happens and you're made to, this is the choice I have. If I disappear, he might die because he might not be able to accept it, the pressure, the stress. And, so you're kind of really weighing that up. And as, you have sick principles, sick values, you've made a commitment and that's it, Hannah. And you don't just be a coward and because you can't handle it and walk away. You've made a commitment. He's getting better and let's see how it goes.
That's an interesting point because when I was watching with my wife yesterday, there's an initial part where, again, you're talking about commitment. You're like, he's Vamad. And I think your mum says in the documentary, are you sure you want to be with a sick person who may not be around?
Mm.
And I said to my missus, I was like, if that was me, like we were getting together, would you? She's like, no. Like, I'm not staying with you. Like if it was in the early days.
Yeah.
And I was like, I understand what you're saying now, but you'd obviously clearly made up your mind. You're like, through thick and thin, I'm going to be there. And you were fully invested. Like you had a schedule and you're researching trials like you were. And I guess the question here is, what is reality, right? This was your reality. And so now we can look at it and be like, it wasn't real, but it was real. That's the thing. It was real. That one part for me, and I'll ask you at this point how true that was. The point where you challenged him at the door and then you were on the phone to Simran and then Simran speaking to Bobby. That really happened, that bit there?
Yeah, he spoke to, because I said to him, you speak to Simran all the time. You're speaking to me and Simran all the time. We speak to Simran. Yeah. And he went, what, Simran Bhogal? And I was like, see, you know a name.
Yeah.
Fits what I'm talking about. And he said, can I talk? So I called her and he went, can I talk to her too? And I went, yeah, here's my phone.
And had that bit been on loudspeaker where she said to him, no, my cousin's not well in the head, and then, because she played both of you in that minute, and I was like, whoa, I was like, because it could have all just unraveled.
No, she saw it through. In that moment, she made a decision, and that decision was, I'm going to see it through. I'm going to gaslight on one end, and then on the other end, I'm going to sympathize, and then I'll deal with the repercussions later in my own head of, can I get out of this? Then she probably thought, I can't get out of it, and then came clean.
Yeah, but there were other situations very similar to that. And so the real Bobby's family, some of them I know, and there was a situation a year earlier where I'd happened to have met one of Bobby's family, and I casually, because so many unbelievable things had happened, and I was just like casually dropped in a line to say, oh, I'm so sorry to hear about so-and-so kind of thing. And they're like, no. And I was like, and then I was like describing that, Bobby, we're talking about the same person. And he was like, yeah. And then that person said to me, they live, I think they said Bristol. And I was like, no. They're from New York. Brighton, right? So I was correcting them, and that's their
Brighton, Bristol.
Right. Wow. So in her head, she was thinking something else. And then I was like, look, this is the situation. And then she brought out her iPad.
Right.
And went on her socials and showed me stuff. And I was getting sick. I was feeling sick.
This is a different profile to the profile you've seen.
No, she was showing me her own profile.
Oh, I see. Okay.
On which Bobby's family was.
Yeah.
And I was beginning to feel sick because I was seeing things, and I was like, things that I'd always felt were lies. I was like, he's lying. And she'd said to me, well, they were with us in December here. And I'm thinking, well, in December, you wouldn't talk to me. He wouldn't do this and he wouldn't do that. He was acting strangely. And I was like, he lied to me again. So there'd been situations where I'd caught lies, and he was like, I just wanted to see my son. I'm sorry. And, and other family.
But that was always a justification. Yeah.
Yeah. And even that, like, the family were with me when they said it could, they were like, literally, it could be possible that, they're actually not together as a couple because we don't see them very much. It could be possible
because they're creating conspiracies.
But this is what I mean, because
what is real?
It could be possible because, we'll keep the front on, but like you're nodding, but you say that to a Gora, they'll be like, what's that all about? If you want to leave, you leave, isn't it? Why would you sit there and waste your time and keep a front on? But you totally believe what I just said.
Yeah, it's plausible. That's what you see. Yeah, exactly. When you say that, you're like, ho sakda,
right? So
it is so flipping plausible.
And this is not coming from fake person. This is coming from a person in front of me that has seen them.
So you're like, what is real at this point?
And then in front of them, I called.
Okay.
Right? So had it on loudspeaker, I called him and they heard the voice.
Wait. Give us an impression. What is this special whisper?
Oh my God, you heard it in the documentary, like, that squeaky. Yeah, it's a bit more throaty and like low and like, it's and they didn't question the voice at all.
Oh my God.
Oh, Jesus.
You're like, this is your banda. So you
the thing is, like, if they're not questioning the voice and they've been with that person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why would I? And I've been like, when you're consistent, you remember I was listening to, so I knew what he sounded like because one, I've met him, even though he didn't remember me meeting him in a club, but they've been like, even when earlier days when he got married, the videos of him and his wife were being sent and posted on his profiles and he's talking away. So I know exactly what he sounds like. It's not like a whatever. But when you've lost your voice, before he wasn't talking, whatever, and it was slow progress getting his voice back. The consultant was saying stuff, the cousins were saying stuff, everyone was talking about it being, and he was like, I'm conscious of my voice. But then to have somebody that has spent time with them, not recognizing their voice, like as in not calling out their voice.
Questioning it. Yeah. No. Like this is Bobby. Yeah.
And the thing is, once you get used to a voice, once you accept someone's voice, once you're talking to them regularly, you just accept it because it's the same all the time, slowly. When there's progress, he had a second stroke, he lost it again. We had to go through that whole period again, So it's like, okay, it is what it is. That's what his voice is going to be now. And,
I think what I'm getting a sense of, which again, the people who say, how could she not know? It's like you've had multiple points where actually these red flags have come up. But like you've just explained there in that little story with his own family, it's quickly like there's so much like confusion and like corroboration. You're like, well, yeah. And then you can't, again, you're in a relationship, you commit to somebody. You're not a negative person. So your mindset isn't to constantly question everything all the time.
I did. So once ikabari shak pagi na.
Yeah.
Ikabari shak pagi, and then.
So what was the first? What was that?
Well, there were things that happened that I first forgave, where I saw a picture of Bobby and Sanj with their child, a newborn, and it was on a profile. And I was like, that's the same profile, because I always believed they had two profiles anyway.
Okay.
From way back in the day, because like at that time, loads of people had two profiles, like a public and a private.
Okay, yeah.
Or, if people had a business, they used, because Facebook was Facebook, it was very, very simple. There was no messenger, there was no nothing. So like loads of artists, my artist friends always had two as well. One to have their followers and friends on Facebook, and then the other one, which was just private for close circle. So it was like that. So I believed that was the same case, and I wasn't on the other profile. But I never really cared because I didn't really care who they. That sounds really weird. I didn't really care who they were. They weren't part of my everyday life. They just wasn't there over there.
Brighton.
When I saw him in Brighton, I didn't even know he lived in Brighton.
Yeah.
So you think, what's a Singh doing? Like, Singh walks across the club in Brighton, like that tall, and you're like, that's him.
Capital हैगा और चीज़ जानी है तुसी Brighton की करते हो.
It was just like I said to my best friend, that's Bobby, like that's that Bobby who, I was telling you about. And again, with Bobby, it was like the stuff that used to happen to him, and he'd like write to me. I'd go into the office and be like, do you know what happened today? It was like a saga in the office. I'd be like, this is what happened. So it wasn't even that I was being confidential or be like that precious about the friendship, because we go into the office, can you believe it? You wouldn't even be able to write this, right? And like the guys in the office would be like, that's crazy. And I'd be like, yeah, it is, isn't it? So you're joking in the office. I shouldn't say joking, but before the friendship became tighter, I'd just be like, these people are weird. Stop. It's like,
of course.
It's like, you don't know why they're talking to me. It's just like, it was literally like that. And then sometimes it'd be like, yeah, that's our brown community. That's how certain
I
things
love
are,
it.
you know.
But that's the carpet, isn't it? You know, we say ਗੋੜਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਕੰਮ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਇਦਾਂ ਹੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਥੋੜਾ ਜਿਹਾ weird ਹੈ.
It's true. It's true. There's an online persona and there's an in-life persona, and that's a very normal thing now in today's generation of kids as well. Very chatty online, very standoffish in person. I've got a question about the final cut itself. Did you have any input in it at all with how it was going to go, or did you demand anything to be taken out that was inaccurate?
I did. I did. I didn't think the ending was powerful enough. And I'm like, if you listen to the podcast and you listen to this is like drama-fied. And I said, I know you guys want drama and high whatever, but I want the truth.
Yeah.
And I said, because there was like the dramatization you see at the end of me. And I took somebody else. I asked for somebody else in our community, one of my friends who's not a close friend. So he was objective enough.
Okay.
But he didn't know me during that period. So somebody I do some work with as well. I asked him to come and watch. And he's quite open-minded as well. So he won't be too like precious about this community side. So he's like walks a kind of, so I knew that I might be too close to it. So if I say something, they're going to always fight me.
Yeah.
So I let somebody else come. They signed an NDA and they watched it with me. And there was this bit where you see me knocking on the door, but it was all drama for like I'm banging the door down. And I was like, what? Like, I wouldn't ever I was too terrified to do that myself. Like, I was too terrified to be standing on their property because I was like, all the boggle stuff that's gone on, if I'm standing there, they might use that against me. I was literally like, she's on our property. She's going to do this, you know, that kind of thing. I smashed my phone. I dropped my phone and I smashed it that time.
As in, because you were that like flustered.
I was like, yeah. And, you know, I was so scared. And that's why I was on the grass verge on the path. That's where I was throwing up. That's where I was standing. Just after I handed him the phone, I walked
away. Okay.
Yeah, I walked away because I was during that period I used to have a lot of panic attacks, like a lot, and bad ones. And the perpetrator down the phone would be hearing me having panic attacks and be okay with it. And at one point, even put the phone down. It's like you always like that. And you know, that's something you don't forgive your partner. You're going through like something like that. And but yeah, it's just, so stuff like that needed to be toned down. Because I didn't do that. And they were like, that's their truth. And I'm like, but it's not the same as the podcast truth. And it's not the same because we told the same story in the podcast.
Yeah, you're right. Because when you watch the Netflix version, they were like, oh, we bolted the doors. We didn't know what was going to happen. And like she was going to come and take the bacha or something. Like it was, they seemed really, really, really scared. And you seemed like a crazy person.
And it's like they came out I was at my car and they came out and they brought their child with them. And I remember like patting him on the head. And I said, he shouldn't be here in this. Can you take him inside, please? That didn't come across in the documentary.
Which is different to hide him away in the back.
And I was like, can you take him inside, please? Because for me, that was like, I'd longed to see this kid.
And this line that they used, he feels like a stepson to me. Fact?
Yeah, because he felt like a stepson to me because I'd been talking. So you did say that, okay. Yeah, and like I had presents for him in the back of my car, right?
Oh, okay, that was genuine. Because again, when you watch Netflix bit, you feel like, oh, is that masala or is that true? Because that does sound like the masala-fied that bit.
But it was like, because I'd been led, because remember, I wasn't able to have kids and I'd been told, so that would be my only kid. The closest thing I would have to a kid.
Yeah.
I was involved in naming him. I was involved in picking clothes for him. Right? So that was the whole idea. That's the only reason I stayed in the relationship.
There was a connection.
There had to be a connection. And, you know, when the baby was ill in the story, I was having to stay up and the way Bobby used to cope with bad news was just sleep. And that was a thing. Right. He used to just sleep, and I'd be up, like comforting him. I'd be all night. So they've not played any of these recordings, not used any of this, but I'd be doing bark all night. I'd be sitting up all night doing bark like into his ears. So like I'd be up, sort of sitting here, literally where I am now, just doing bark, so you can hear bark as to keep him calm, and just praying. And even when he was unwell, like when I used to be at work, I'd record Simran or record Japji Sahib or Jap Sahib for him to continuously listen. Do that. I'd send him every morning walk. I'd go, you know, every day. Like, so it was, you know,
committed.
Absolutely committed. So it was just like trying to keep him calm, trying to keep the situation calm, trying to, you know, ardas karni. it's, you know, you have to have faith to get through things like what we were facing. You have to have faith.
Yeah.
Right. So my faith really played, and I've said it before, and my faith really played a huge part in carrying me through everything. There's probably no chance if I didn't have my faith that I could have survived any of that, to be honest. So
how are your parents grappling with everything now? Because in the audio, I think your dad was still not accepting of what had happened. And even in the documentary, you could see your dad didn't really say too much. I don't know if that's editing, but it kind of carries on with that storyline of what was told in the Tortoise podcast as well.
So just to be clear, like, we're all contributors in this. I don't know what anyone said. No one's I haven't influenced my parents. I haven't. Right. I've said to my parents, I want them to be part of it. That was important to me. But what they said, and I just said to them, speak to your truth. And that's what I keep saying. Yeah. Like, if I'm telling people to speak their truth, I can't then go and influence somebody. And it was the same.
This is the truth that you need to say. Huh?
Yeah. And it's like, whatever my dad wants to say and however they edit it, it's down to them, not me.
Yeah.
My cousin's spoken her truth. My mummy G's spoken her truth.
She spoke very well. Yeah.
And, you know, and they interviewed so many other people as well, but not everybody made it into the final cut.
Was there pushback from mum and dad? To be like, okay, you've had the podcast now, and Netflix the load ki hogi. Well,
the thing is, I don't think mum and dad realize how big Netflix is because they don't really watch Netflix. I think they have. I think my mum was keen. My mum was keen to do it. Bella, my mum was like, you know, just move on with your life. But she's like turned because she was a victim as well. She was talking, right? Yeah. So she's. After the podcast, really, I think she's turned her thought process around. She's solid. She's solid. Like,
she seems
something needs to be done.
Solid.
Something needs to be done. Something needs to be done. So she gets
it. She was like, this needs to be a criminal case. The law change got all like, she was asking for it.
Yeah.
Do you think now, you know, this, what you said there, move on. Do you feel now that, especially mum feels that what you're doing now, this work is part of moving on?
I don't know if they see it as part of moving on. I think because I talked to my mum a lot about, I did the so-and-so messaged me today, this poor girl suffering like this, or this has happened. And we also know there's more victims in this scenario, in this particular scenario, mine.
Okay.
And I'm the only one that's speaking.
Sorry, do you mean Simran has done this to other people? Is that what you mean?
Really?
Okay, that's never come out anywhere.
Well, it has, kind of. If you listen to the podcast and if you kind of listen to the undertone of what Bobby says.
I'm going to re-listen to this again now.
Right?
Okay.
If you listen to the undertone of what Bobby says and if you listen to the podcast, you hear there's a victim there. And then since the trailer came out, there's been another victim come forward. But we know already after the podcast, lots of people have come forward. But people don't want to speak, as in people don't want to speak because she's still out there.
How does she have so much time to run all this at once? Like, there's not enough hours in the day.
That's what I want to know, right? How? So when the civil case finished, the one thing I was disappointed with was not finding out how. Well,
the how or the motive and the why? Because for me,
the how.
Why? You want to, but you know the why or you don't know the why?
I don't know the why.
But you want to know the how more than the why?
No, I want to know the how. Because I'm thinking, how do you maintain?
More than the why.
More than the
why, Indy.
60 personas, 60.
I get it.
I
understand that's complex. You can outsource, you can get freelance, you can pay people. That, fine.
No.
But what I'm saying is, but why? Why would somebody do it? No, I understand that's important. I'm not saying it's not important. I'm just saying, but everybody had a theory. When the Tortoise media came out, and they're like, why did Simran do it? Why did Simran do it? Because after oh my God, this happened, and they've got over their shock of this actually happened, this is real. Then the next question most people ask is, what was the motive? Was she in love with Kirat? Was this about control? If I can't have Kirat, then nobody can have Kirat. Like, people had theories on theories on theories. And there's this letter that's talked about, isn't there, in the podcast, which has obviously never been disclosed. But in that, did you get the why? Or not? Or was it just more of an apology rather than...
It was pretty much an apology that I drafted. It's a
how
civil.
Does that situation,
this is the thing.
How does that situation emerge? Like, could you tell people? Because I know a lot of people might not have heard the audio.
So I wanted a public apology.
Yeah.
So a public apology would be recorded in court and it would be available for anybody to see.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. She wanted to give me a private apology, and that's useless to me. That's absolutely useless. How am I going to justify what happened to me without being able to tell anybody?
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So that was my problem. Then there was a compromise reached that I can have a private apology and only tell a named list of people. And I had like a day to put these people together as well. So it's kind of, again, it's been kind of useless because literally like I think 5 or 10 people have seen it out of the list and most of the people don't really care.
Right.
I said, it's not pointless. They care enough about me than to have to see that they believe me anyway. It's like you kind of think about who you're doing it to. And the thing is, again, I can only show the letter to people in person. So some of the people I've put on the list aren't local. They might be overseas. They might be, because I've thought about it strategically, but then I can't show it to them. And so it's just like, all this stuff's happened, time's gone by. It's less and less important for people to see.
The thing I think about now is there's a bit in the film Batman when Alfred is talking about the Joker and he says there are some people who do things but with no logical sense. Do you remember that scene I'm talking about where he burns the cash and stuff? And when I think about her, I just think, actually there might not be a why. This, like in her, they could be so dark that it's just, why not? Like that could be her answer. Why not? Fun games.
Because, I think Alexi explored it a little bit in the podcast as well. It's like, why not? It's just control, power, or why not? Because you can. But how do you know you can? Something as crazy as that as well. But it's just, what makes you want to think of doing something like that?
Of course.
It's just,
Indy, tell Kirat about the message we received today, DM.
Oh, man, I'll tell you off air, because some people are reaching out to us saying X, Y, and Z. I don't know how true they are, but we do have a decent following of people saying, I went to school with her, etc.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All this stuff. And we're like, okay.
So, it brings these people up, but they won't say it publicly. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Of course.
That's the problem because that person's out there. If they know who that person is, might target that person without that person knowing they're being targeted. That's the scary thing.
That's the scary thing.
Right? That's why I need the criminal case to happen. And we need to, like right now, she's not supposed to be doing X, Y, and Z according to civil cases and injunction.
Right.
As such. Who's monitoring it?
Yeah. What's the actual oversight?
Who's checking? Who's doing what?
Because obviously with a civil case, like there'd be like not a probation officer, but somebody, like you said, to actually check in and enforce. But if it's just piece of paper saying you shouldn't do this. Well, I guess here's the follow-up to that then. So this happened within a Punjabi family. Simran has parents, right?
Yeah.
So what's been their kind of take on this? And obviously their rishta with your mum and dad, and they now like...
No rishta.
No rishta.
The grandfather we had a rishta with for a bit because I've seen him at a couple of funerals and public occasions, and he'd Pyar Nal still hugged me and everything and gave me pyar and everything.
Okay.
But then later on, I think Mum met him somewhere and there was a blank. So I think I've done my best. Our family means a lot. Uncle G, Uncle G meant a lot to me. Her grandfather,
right?
Like held him in such high regard. It's not his doing. I just wanted, Buzurga, you want to protect them. And I did my best throughout the legal staff, everything. I was like, when you go to serve, make sure he doesn't open the door. If it's him, you don't do anything. You don't, I've done everything on my part to minimize stuff all the way through. And, I know some people in our family are like, oh no, she didn't follow mediation through. And like, hello, they didn't, what do you want me to go knocking on their door? Yeah. They know they've come home, they phoned, and after that they've gone silent. I tried by beginning a legal process, which should have invited them they should have been scared enough. That was my strategy. That was the strategy. You send them a letter to scare them to talk into talking again.
Yeah. And then you actually have like conversation.
Then you start, and let's start this conversation again. And all it was I was getting letters back, intimidating me still.
from lawyers, but from third party.
From the other side.
Yeah,
You hear about it. Alexi talks about it, and he reads bits out of it, and that was like, it would be scary. Like, I always be open. Don't open the letter. Don't open the letter. We'll read it together.
Right.
No, because they knew it was going to be upsetting. And I've already done it. I've watched it. So, and then I'd be like fuming. I'd be angry.
I'm drafting the response as we speak.
No, but it'd be upsetting because, like, you have to deal with the upset first and the anger, and then you have to calm yourself down. Because responding to anything in anger is always the worst thing you can do.
Which is what they want, provocation is part of their tactic and strategy.
And even with the trolls, it's the same.
Yeah, definitely evening with trolls. Yeah. At the point, when she was at your door, she said it was me. And again, this is described, right? It's described in both the things, but I want to ask you now on the podcast. You talk about, or it's described as, there was nothing. And literally no emotion.
Nothing.
And then she was just silent, like after it was me.
No, it was me, yeah. And I just kept asking. I just kept screaming at her. I was literally just downstairs screaming. Why? 10 years? Why? Why? I was like, just like that. And I just didn't believe it.
That's denial. That's the absolute normal reaction in that moment.
Yeah, but her brother was in the car and still, and he hadn't driven off. And I was like, does he know? Does your family know? And she goes, that's why I'm late, because she was supposed to work from home from my house that day, because the day before she'd gone with me to the police because I was scared. So on the so Saturday was the day I went to Bobby's house randomly.
Yep.
Sunday, she phoned me in the morning and she said, I've spoken to Bobby and they don't come. Sanj is going to call the police, and Bobby's saying, don't come again. Because I was like, I'm going to take everything, all the present, everything of theirs that I bought. I want it. They can have it. I don't want any of it. Like, come with me. And she was like, no, don't do that. Don't go, and all that kind of thing. And because they're going to the police. And I was like, what are they going to the police for? What have I done? And that was, again, that was an intimidation tactic because of something else she knew about me from my personal life. And she knew that strike a chord for something else that happened to me personally in the past. But that's exactly the intimidation I'm talking about. When somebody
it's
uses
very
something
intentional, it's surgical, it's
it's something that I've got over in my past that happened, and it's like something someone did to me, and it was good. She knew that would be a trigger.
Yeah, which is why she said it. Yeah.
Which is why she said it, but that was like, why are they doing that? Like, why is he doing that to me? I was thinking that Bobby was doing that to me. I was like, why is Bobby doing that to me? He must really, like, what is going on? So from that, I was scared. And I was like, I need to go to the police because I don't understand. They're just messed up. They're all just messed up. How can Sanj allow her husband to sleep with me on the phone? Because even that night...
You like that message, psycho. You psycho.
That was literally me going, you psycho, you psycho.
Fuck off, Hoya.
That was me that night. But then that's the thing. So I'd got back from there and I'd got I'm so sorry. You shouldn't have seen that. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So you're still like, what?
Yeah.
I came home. The picture of him so I've got, like, on my desk, I have one Bobby stuff there, and next to there was like Bobby's picture, and I smashed it, and I just because he'd always threatened me with his life all the time. I've given up now. I've got no job. I've not been on radio. I've not whatever. People have been asking like, "Tu kitni janni tu onni ni tera hal dekh, tera aa dekh, tera wo dekh," and people because that's totally the opposite of me. I'm a workaholic. I'm a loud, bubbly, lively person. I do, I'm just totally the opposite of who I was. The opposite of who I was. Explanation. What's the explanation I'm going to give people? And I was just absolutely broken by that. And I was like, I'm going to tell your family. At that point, I was still like, I'm going to tell your family, but I'm scared that what you're going to do to me. So I'm going to go to the police. So I said to her, I need to go to the police. I said, I know there's no crime being committed yet, but I need to have something on record because I'm scared. And I said, I need you to come to the police because I haven't met him while I've been in a relationship with him. But you went there, you saw him, you brought me back presents from him. You went to see him in hospital in New York when you went for work. And so she brought me back presents. And I said, I need you to be next to me saying this. So she came she was a bit like, I've never been to the police station before. And I was like, it's okay. All we're doing is reporting a.
Yeah, but she knows in her head
the game
she's
is nearly
playing
up
with that much fire.
Yeah.
Like she is
like,
about to
edge.
she is about to get expeditiously burnt.
But she sat with me at the police station, and it turned out the officer behind the desk was someone I knew. Anyway,
right.
So I've done a lot of work in the community with the police and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
And the guy, I was like, oh my God, I said, I remember you. And he had new equipment. We were talking about the new equipment the police have been using. And I was like, oh, how's the system now? And we were chatting like that. And I was like,
so you're doing gupshop, and then you're like, by the way.
But no, but he was like,
this is kind of some like murder mystery stuff. Like, honestly, it's so perfectly set up that it feels, if you wrote this in a Hollywood script, someone would say, this is too good to be true.
But this is what happens with CSI, though. You know CSI? Have you watched CSI, anybody?
CSI,
yeah. So every single episode in CSI, because I'm a CSI fan, is based on a true story, true case.
Yeah.
But some of those cases are so crazy that they've had to dumb down the scripts.
Because no one believes it.
No one believes it. But those crazy things happen. But so she sat next to me and she verified everything to the police. And the guy, I was like, this sounds really crazy. I know. He was like, but he goes, I know you're not crazy. He said to me, that particular officer. So he put it down and he gave me a reference and fine. But she was playing on my phone. And then she said, oh, Bobby was da-da-da-da. And he's saying, she's like, should I tell him that, you still love him, but like whatever. And I was like, tell him whatever. So she was on my phone. And at that point, she deleted his number from my phone that I'd taken from him on Saturday.
Oh, the real phone. Right.
Because he'd said to me, like, my number's this. And I was like, I don't know. You might have 2 phones. You can have a zillion phones. I already like think like that. I'm quite I'm quite meticulous and switched on.
Logical. You're like.
I'm very rational and very logical. Yeah. Like when I was people say like, oh, you're so naive. And I think, Indy, I was telling you when we met at the thing, the lengths that I was going to find him, just based on him telling me, I went to Wagamama's with the consultant today. And I was like, hey, 8 Wagamama's in New York.
Google Maps.
Yeah. Which one's closest to the hospital? Then I went on LinkedIn, found somebody that worked in that Wagamama's in New York. Yeah. And you're going to message them to say like, so I'm going to find out. Yeah. I was literally, I was like, I'm becoming this psycho.
Because you even said so yourself, that isn't you.
No, that's not me. Who's got the energy to do that?
Simran.
Well, some people do.
Yes. Yeah.
Other people do as well, right? But yeah. But who's got the energy? And I was that person who, I don't care about Facebook. I don't care about those things. I never used to carry my phone with me in my pocket everywhere. I can leave it in my bag for 6 hours and not check it. I'm happy. Right. But I was made to carry my phone around with me. It was pinging constantly, even before the relationship, just when him and Sanj were going through their stuff. I'd have Sanj talking to me, then I'd have Bobby talking to me, and Sanj saying, Bobby's done this. And I'm like, I'm living a relationship. And I used to be in my own relationship and I'd be with my partner and I'd just leave my phone in the bag because I didn't want to get disturbed on our date. Or, and it's just like, what the hell's going on? What is this? What am I being dragged into? It's like, what is... Yeah, pop-up boggled when I'm like, grow up, people. It's just, but then you think...
On that weekend, Kirat, was that the last time you probably spoke to Simran and Bobby, like in person or just directly to them without a third party?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's interesting is how Bobby hasn't spoken to you since about it, even though it did impact him as well.
Not during, though. He didn't go through the ordeal.
He didn't know, did he, Indy?
Yeah. True, but even in the aftermath, obviously his identity has been misused. Surely he would assist you with a case, no?
I would have thought so. I am disappointed. I'm not going to pretend. I am disappointed at how, I know his extended family. I know his Sakipua. I've met her recently at a funeral. And I think he's only recently realized how closely connected we are. But I've been saying this for years. Why can't you say it now? Why are you openly saying we are connected?
Is he not helping you? As in, is he saying things against you or he's just not being helpful?
No, it's not. I don't think there's anything against me or anything like that. I'm not saying there's any malice like that.
Yeah.
But it's like, I feel like, why aren't we being open? Like, it's not against me, but you're not helping. Yeah. I feel like...
That's what I mean. So it's not being helpful.
It's just not being helpful. And I just feel like we talk about the community.
Forthcoming?
That community chup karke, but you'll take the good bit. So they're happy to do the bit where they're the victim and they got scared and me talking about the door, but they're not talking about how their I'd like them to talk about how their profiles were open, how they may have been stalked for years.
Right.
Because those profiles existed before I was even approached. Right.
That's true.
My family were following, my cousins, my uncles were following the fake profiles.
Yeah.
Right. She's obviously been talking to either them, their whole family, because I've got things that aren't in the public domain from them. How has she done it? Have they worked it out? He doesn't want, I'd want to know. My youngest brother's considerably younger than me. So if I take him as an example of maybe my child kind of scenario, I'd want to know, how many pictures, what pictures of my child are out there? What was stolen of mine? What was, how can you not want to know that? I find that really
odd.
Yeah. But I do think there's a level of trust because of the kind of principled person that I am and integrity. I'm not going to, obviously I have several pictures of the perpetrator. I've not shared a single one. It's just principle.
You could. I mean, exactly. You have all the opportunity to do stuff. It'd be very easy to do.
Yeah, but this is still family. It's still affecting not just, that might be the perpetrator, but it's not the parents' fault. It might not, it's not siblings' fault, not grandfather's fault. It's not anybody else's fault that we're in this position, but they're still suffering too.
But they're still impacted. Yeah, you're right. The impact is there. The impact there's still many years of that impact.
The people we need to pressure is the police who didn't do anything, the law that makes it difficult, the institutions, Facebook for not giving information readily to the police. All these people, that's where we need to put pressure on.
Okay, 2 questions on the back of that. First question is, after admission of guilt, nothing, before it became all kind of civil action, trying for criminal case, was there a closed door, sit down, Punjabi style meeting of the families? Everybody's in the room.
They came over the day of the confession. So the morning happened.
The morning was you two?
Yeah. And then later in the afternoon, and once my mum had come home from work, my dad was in Kenya.
Okay.
And the parents came home.
Okay. And at that point, she's already told them, or she's told them whatever she's told them.
Yeah.
What's that conversation?
That conversation is just about what she was doing and how it's impacted my life and how we're going to solve this and what we're going to do. And they were like, we'll sort you out, basically. And whatever sorting me out looks like. And then they did phone the following day. And I mean, they were like, don't go to the police. They were always like, I'm like, what about me? Kind of thing. All that kind of everything. This is the thing. What's happened to our community?
A lot of self-preservation there.
Yeah, but my parents didn't think like, I think they're old school and how we brought up is we're all one. You tell them off, you bring them in line, make her come and apologize, make her do this, in our own community, we're not holding that person to account.
Accountable, yeah.
So how can you now tell me off for doing this to bring that person to account when you're not doing it in your own community?
At any point in that closed door meeting, did the parents look at Simran and ask her directly what you were trying to get out of the why?
She wasn't there.
She wasn't there. Okay.
She wasn't there in that meeting. The parents came by themselves. I did ask them a few questions because obviously in that period I've seen her grow from a schoolgirl to a smart young woman, right? And I'd have conversations with her as a young woman who is now a VP at a bank.
Yeah.
And she's obviously got a brain, her good head on her shoulders. That's what I used to always say about her. You just think that, what's my train of thought? What was I saying?
It's okay. So the question you wanted to, asking the parents questions. That's what it was.
So you just, I'd had conversations with her and some of them, when she's talking about people at work, and I'd be like, Simran, be careful with how you work. She'd send me screenshots of where she's been cocky with somebody at work or something like that. And I'd be like, that's a bit, for me, it sounded like bullying.
Right.
And I'd say to her, Simran, I know you can,
turn it down.
Then, but sometimes you have that annoying person in the office, and she was framing it like that. And she knew I'd had something like that at my workplace as well. And we'd like laughed about it in the past, but she was framing her in that, like, she's that annoying person in the office, always annoying everybody. So she put her in her place. But while I was reading these emails and I was like, sometimes like when you're in the workplace, you need to be very careful how you work. I'd say stuff like that to her.
Yeah.
And like in hindsight, you look at even that and you think, what the hell?
But the ability, the ability to compartmentalize, to have like this normal-ish relationship with you that carries on in parallel to this other thing that maybe she's so in that character that she's disassociated that. Like they show in the Netflix where you're having coffee and she's on her phone and maybe messaging you and you're sitting there, but it doesn't, I don't know how you compartmentalize that. How does that not like cross over and...
Yeah, but it's these things.
How did she not become weird with you? That's, I mean, because you would have picked up on that as well. Has she become weird with you or odd or like distance or something, you know?
This is the thing. So something would have to go wrong with Bobby, like that example. Let's go back to that example where the family scenario was happening and they were showing me and I was questioning him and then, and then he put the phone down. And then next thing you know, Simran is calling me to say, Bobby's just called me to say, you need to go and spend time. You need to go and be with Kirat now. I've done something really stupid and you need to be with her. She's not in a good way. So I'm actually walking from the other person's house to mine, kind of, I'm like, I'm in a mess. Yeah. And she's phoned me and I'm like, okay, where shall I meet you? And I've, in my state, got in my car, driven into central London to meet her after like where she's left work. And, in my state, I've just gone and I've spent all day, I've tried to eat, not eat. She's come home, she sat at home, talked to my mom about Bobby being stupid, had Roti at home here with us, dropped her home. And now I think she always used to say, don't drop me here, just drop me here, it's fine. I'd be like, no, I'm in a car, I'll drop you right in front of your door. Why are you going to walk when I'm in the car? I'd say, but now you're like, okay, she didn't want them to see that I've dropped her. Because they're like, we didn't know that she used to come to your house. We didn't know. And my mom's like, she used to come here. She's been here.
Roti khandi thi.
But you know what I mean? It's like they had no idea.
She thought about things on such a deep level. Every little bit was so calculated, going by the stuff you're saying.
And this is what's so hard. And how do I explain this stuff to people? And when the people go, 9 years, how did you know? Well, like I said, the first part, I wasn't really interested. I'm living my life.
Casual.
And even when he was first in hospital, before he went off into second time into this witness protection thing, I didn't know how that worked because they'd done it all before and whatever, and it's got nothing to do with me. But I was actually I was studying and I was trying to get a final assessment in, and I was spending all-nighters trying to do my coursework. My cousin, who you see in the doc, was coming and randomly, she talks about herself at that time, but she'd randomly turn up at my house and be sleeping in my room as well. It was just really insane. And my house, everything was chaos in my house. And then on top of that, I had this person who wasn't well and his cousins trying to talk to me.
Yeah.
A consultant trying to talk to me, his wife trying to talk to me. I wasn't like romantically anything there. And so it's just like I had too much going on. And sometimes when you're a busy person and you don't look into things, like for me, Facebook's not important. People aren't important. What is important is my family, my close people. So everything else isn't important. He was one of those not important people
around, but not enough around to question and what's
to
the most
really care about too much. And
I wonder from her perspective, actually, that initial, like you said, fine, it's a 9-year period, but this intense period is, say, like the latter part. I wonder if what the initial motive was, because it clearly wasn't all like love, romantic, and maybe she saw an opportunity and now let's make it into this. And then I don't know what she thought her end game or end plan was, and they just kind of just escalated so quickly, and then there was no out, was there?
When we did the podcast, I had a very different idea of what the story with her might be. But after the podcast, you learn that everything that you thought is not true. So, I think when we were doing the podcast, I thought, she might have had a first love, which had gone bad. When you're a kid, you had that first love and you're there and, you're mourning after, pining after, oh my God. And that was JJ, right? So that in my head, that was JJ. And it's just kind of, she did this to comfort herself and it got out of control. That was what I had in my head. And that's kind of a reasonable thing to believe, I thought, even though she's gone too far. but it's not the case at all because she didn't date him till later.
When they started, yeah.
So
then,
none of that.
What was the original
She's
inception?
been stalking him for already.
When you look back at this whole thing, and you've done everything through the Netflix documentary, did you ever look at anything and see red flags or think, Charles, maybe that was a little bit far-fetched? Because I think what people don't grasp is just how many things look so obviously like it sticks out like a sore thumb to them.
So, like for me, the most crazy thing was the witness protection thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
that's been the number one thing I've seen. Yeah, where everyone's like, "How did you not pick up with it?"
So that witness protection thing, like I said,
insane.
the first, So this is the thing. So when you want to know how meticulous and crazy I am, so first of all, it was all with their family, whatever had happened before, and he'd gone into witness, but I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know it's their family, his cousins. I don't need to know what's gone on.
Yeah.
Right. So he's just talking and he was like, hi. He was like, hi, I've come back from, and I was like, okay, what do you say to somebody who you thought? It was like, what do you say? It was just like, okay. And you're just like, hi. Who's been in that position before to say that actually we now know, I don't know who you've been contacted by, but other people we now know have been in that position and actually seen a dead person come back to life again and gone, what the hell, in our scenario. But when the second witness protection thing happened, I was out at an awards night for radio awards, which he'd again been promoting as for me on his page as his sister.
Okay.
My big sister's been nominated for, and this is what I mean. People don't get there really wasn't a romantic thing going on.
All they remember is that drawing with that Butta. That was a new Facebook, thing with the rose.
It's just that's just clickbait, isn't it? It's just it's just sit there and but anyway, God, I'm laughing so much. I should be crying. I've got to laugh.
We're very good
at
laugh
through the pain, man.
You got to, but so this witness, let's clear this witness protection thing up. So that's all happened while I'm out partying all night. I think I've come back at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then at 9 o'clock in the morning. So at this time, I'm not sleeping on the phone with him at this time or anything like that. His cousin is with him, looking after him in a hospital in Kenya at this time. I've got nothing to do with that, and they're just like, oh, you calm him down somehow. So you talk to him, and I'd be talking to his cousin, going, how is he today? Just mess around with him, just do something fun with him, just do some nakri with him. He'll be fine. That's it. Kind of, he'll be like, just ask the doctors this, ask the whatever this. Make sure he was a bit younger, and I was like, just make sure you keep asking these questions and be good with the consultants and stuff. That's it. So he's decided to go off and do that. He's already had, from what the family have told me and what I understand, that this whole witness protection thing is something that has gone on before. I've got no idea how this works or anything like that. He gets sent across. I mean, which of us do, to be honest? Would you know how witness protection works?
Just films.
No.
I know, and even in films, American films only. I've never heard about it in the UK. We just hear about it in America. Breaking Bad was probably the last time
I did work with someone once who was actually moved to the job that I was working with her in as a form of witness protection, because she was somebody who saw a murder. So her name wasn't her real name, but that's it.
So I used to question,
and that was just domestic. That happened in the UK.
Yeah. Okay. So the fact that he'd been moved from, I was like, what the hell? And they're like, oh, it's some family business thing. And I don't know anything about the business. I don't know anything. But when I was told it's a year's contract, so he'll be out in December, whatever it was. And I was like, okay. And I was like, it is what it is. And he's done whatever. And we just have to deal with it. And we thought at that point we were going to say goodbye. So that was like, he's going bye. We're not going to know him. And then all this stuff happens when he's in there and he becomes sick. And just before, happens like a week once he's in there, and he's allowed, I think what had happened was the consultant had been talking to us, and he'd managed to get himself on a medical team out there because of his medical complications from everything that had happened to him before, which I had only been distantly party to, not closely party to. But I actually at one point I wanted to go out there, or I wanted to work out what was going on, because I was like quite annoyed. Like I was just like, what the F is going on? Literally, sorry for the F word, but yeah. I went online and I researched absolutely everything, to the point where I had names of people in which I had a phone number, I had email addresses, I had everything. And I spoke to the consultant and I said, you know something, I'm fed up. You haven't been able to sort things out. So-and-so hasn't been able to sort things out. I'm doing it. I've got details. Yeah. I am emailing and I am going to sort this out myself. I was literally like that. So I've gone to that depth, and I've actually I was going through my stuff the other day, and I was got all the stuff that I've downloaded still, and it was sitting in a folder somewhere. I was like, oh wow.
Which I think if you're Simran in that situation, she's thinking, shit.
Yeah.
Calling the bluffs out.
Taking this too far. She's calling my bluff. Shit.
Yeah. But that's how I was. But she's learning now that that's the kind of person I am, right?
So then she elevates to another level of complexity.
She has to take her game up to this. So I've like now gone then, the guy's gone, if he know that, if you go to them saying you know that this person is in witness protection, you're screwing everything up.
You blow the cover.
Like you're going to blow everything. Yeah. You're not even supposed to know he's in witness protection.
Yep.
And so I'm being told off for attempting to do something by not Bobby, but somebody who's in his witness protection in the medical team, right? Who has been secretly telling whatever. And I'm like, well, he was like, let me handle it. And then what's happened is they've started using the names that I've got on that team that I'd found.
Yeah.
So when they're talking to me about the WITSEC team and whoever it is and whoever's in charge, they've started using the names that I've got. So obviously gone off and done all that research and somehow found whatever I've got. So I'm like, okay.
That's legitimate, man. Yeah. I know. Email Hager. Yeah.
So it's that, right? So it's don't even think that I haven't tried.
Yeah.
I have properly done everything, covered everything from every angle. And even like the hospital, I finally eventually got a hospital address when he was out of the WITSEC, but still stuck in hospital because he went to a public hospital. And Simran went there. And I was like, from the hospital being described, I'm like, it sounds like this hospital. And I'm like, and she's like, I can't tell you. And I'm like, Bobby doesn't want me to tell me. I'm like, I'm telling you, it's this hospital. From the description, from what Bobby says to me, I went for a walk today and I saw this. And I've been researching all the hospitals on West Coast because I know he's gone from East Coast now to West Coast. I'm researching all of them. And I'm like, it's this hospital. And eventually she's gone, yeah, he's this here. And I said, tell me what floor I'm sending, like whatever, I want to send flowers.
Yeah.
Because he's in a hospital. And she goes, if you're there, he shouldn't be scared of me sending him something. I said, what is this nonsense about being scared of seeing me now? And so I sent stuff. So I've got like a confirmation of the order being received, all of that. Everything.
So I wonder who's signing for that. Who's signing for that?
Somebody, the hospital's obviously signed for it. It's like people
someone got some free flowers, man.
And they're like,
Kirat, you made a stranger's day, okay? Actually, you might have caused a fight with a couple. There was
a mug. The flowers, it was like cute. I researched an American florist locally to send it to them from there. So I did all of that.
Oh.
So I paid in dollars and I picked like something that had a mug. It was a beautiful mug with a little nice message on it and then whatever. And then later on in the flowers that I got from Bobby later on, it had the message that was on the mug sent to me in the card.
Okay, Kirat, you definitely caused an argument with a couple on that day somewhere. Someone saying, who the fuck sent you this mug? What's this?
Who Kirat the corner? Who is this lady? Gone.
But then to have flowers sent to you a couple of months later with the message that was on the mug.
Yeah.
In the card to you, you're like, like he's acknowledging.
I'd like to change my stance. I want to know the why now. Actually, no. Sorry. No. I want to keep my stance. The how of that story, I want to know more about because that is wild. Okay.
It's just, yeah. Did you see what I'm saying? It's so messy and intertwined, and like even there was a chance when I saw a chance meeting with me seeing. I did like I do my family tree. I've been doing my family tree since 2004. Bobby was upset about not having his family around him. He was like very similar to me as a person. And I did his family tree as a surprise for him because obviously he's been telling me about his family and I've worked it all out, sent it to like as a surprise to him. As I was doing that, I'd found things out, seen things online and I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
But in that process, there's things that can help you do your family tree. And I found a rough area where I was told that by Simran that Sanj had moved to. And I went to that rough area, like it was Diwali, and I went to that rough area, and he said he's got an operation. And I was like, again, because he'd done things wrong, I was like, he's lying to me. This is my gut feeling. He's lying to me. It's Diwali. He's doing something with Sanj, and I'm going back. This is how psycho and like crazy I'd become. He's not having an operation. He's spending Diwali with his son and lying to me. And I'd gone to the Gurdwara, I'd done everything. It was raining. And then I decided to go for a drive. He's in theatre. So I know he won't be trying to contact me. So he doesn't want to be disturbed was my thing. And I'd gone off to this area and I was driving around roads and parking like a boggled, stupid person. And I think the third road that I parked in, I just sat there and I by chance saw Sanj. This isn't I don't know if I want this to be in this now actually, but I'm just telling you, but I saw Sanj and instead of being the gutsy person and coming out the car and confronting her, I totally freaked and I phoned my friend.
It's in the Netflix. It's showing the Netflix.
I just
not the phone call, but they see her.
There's nothing that needs to be cut there. That was completely in the dark.
I can't remember because I can't remember what's what and what.
Well, it shows her walking past the car and you're in the car. That's what it shows.
Oh yeah, that bit is in there. Like, I've seen other cars. Yeah, so that is. But I totally freaked at that point. If I got out of the car and spoken to her, but I was so scared. This is my point. Yeah. I am now. I've been in a coercive and controlling situation where I'm having. Like, he's shouting at me. I don't understand why he's being nasty to me after being so respectful all this time. All the things that he loved about me, he now hates.
Because you were getting warm. That's why.
Obviously, right? Because every time I'm calling something out, it's like I'm... So the only thing you can do is get angry, scare me, pressure me. And so instead of having the guts that I would have, like anybody now would... Like, anyone who knows me, if somebody's being noisy on my street... I'm the one that goes out there and says, guys, will you just pipe it down? Like, and mom's like, so I'm that gutsy. For me to not get out of my car and confront a woman is definitely not me. And instead I phoned my friend and going, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? Why am I here? This isn't me. I'm scared. You know, but Bobby wasn't there. I didn't see Bobby. So I was like, I've now let myself down. Like, I've let Bobby down. I've done something really stupid. I've not trusted my partner and he's actually having an operation and here's me
questioning that, stalking his...
Yeah, I've questioned his integrity and stuff and, you know, and that's just chance, isn't it? It's like stupid coincidence.
What I've noticed is throughout this whole conversation, you still reference Bobby even though it was Simran. Do you notice you do that as like an instinctive thing within yourself?
No, it's deliberate on my part because people need to understand when I speak about Bobby, to me at that time, Bobby was a real person, right? Yeah, I'm doing a lot of this. When I speak, people need to understand that what I was seeing at that time was Bobby. I wasn't seeing. So I would probably be calling Sanj on my way home from there, not Sanj, Simran on the way home from there going, Sim, I've just done this. I don't understand. I am a wreck. There were so many times like I'm going to go there and check if Sanj is there. I'm going to go and check if Bobby, and she'd stop me. And I didn't even know where I was going because even on that last day with her, I instinctively drove to that area and she was panicking because I was like, they've got to be here somewhere. You know, that's where, and I was driving around the area and she was panicking because I didn't know where the house was. I just knew like it was somewhere in an area and purely by chance, I'd had that stupid chance thing, which is kind of sickening. It's just like, sometimes I think, why did you do that?
That's a big question. Yeah,
you think you know, how chancy can you get like that? You've got an area, you've got a small area, but like somebody sitting out my road, how chancy is that I'm going to walk out of a house? Like, somebody could be sitting on my road now, but what are the odds of me getting out of the car and Sanjay's brother getting out the car? And do you know, it's that kind of, and even for that's just a short period of time as well. It's just
eerily, you just can't explain it.
So it's stupid coincidence that didn't help.
What was the reason for why you wanted to do the documentary in the first place? And what's the end message you want people to take from it?
I don't think I really wanted to do a documentary.
Okay.
Let's be fair. Like I said, why would I put myself through this? I did sit down and talk to, not family, because you know what family is going to say. I did sit down and talk to friends that I trusted. Some of them had a different perspective, but if I'm going to do this for me, like I said, it was Netflix. I didn't want to do it now, or I wanted something like this to happen after a criminal investigation had been completed. That was my thing.
Okay.
But the criminal investigation we thought would be completed very quickly after it was reopened, and it hasn't been. And they've just then continued with the documentary.
Just to clarify, because there's parts of the documentary where, so catfishing at the moment, is it a criminal offense?
No.
Can you be charged? Right. So when you say criminal investigation, what do you actually mean?
So catfishing, we have been told catfishing isn't a criminal offense. There are several existing laws.
Okay. And what's the reason why it's not a criminal offense?
Because there are several existing laws that would cover what catfishing is.
No, laws that protect the person doing it or the person it happens to?
Person that happens to. So if I'm the victim, I can go in and say this has happened to me, and it could be this charge, this charge, this charge, this charge, or this charge, depending on the nature of the catfishing.
But the level of civil case is what you're saying?
No, that's a civil case, a criminal for the criminal case, because with the civil case it's quite straightforward. It's a civil harassment.
So there's 5 chargeable things you're talking about. There's 5 chargeable.
It could be more than 5. It just depends on the nature of what's happened in the catfish scenario. Okay,
and that's case specific. Yeah,
it's case specific. So I think that's the reason why there isn't a catfish law. And what I'm saying is, like, fine, if that's the case, then the police force needs to be trained when you walk into a police station and say, this has happened to me. Every police officer needs to understand that, okay, this is a catfishing thing.
Yep.
So let's listen to the story and let's work out whether it's this, or this, and this. Could be several.
A combination,
And then get the crime reference and let's go and deal with the perpetrator. Right? But they don't understand that. They don't have that knowledge, and they don't have that skill. They don't have that understanding or the empathy even. With the police scenario, I went to a one-stop shop to get more help with very early on. And there was a female police officer there, and she just casually just said to me, if you were a guy, your perpetrator was a man, it'd be so much easier. It's so much more believable.
There'd be more sympathy towards your plight.
Which is wrong. And then in our community, it's just the fact that it's another Sikh kuri that's done it. If it hadn't, for me, if it was a black guy, a black girl, a Muslim guy, I think our community would be behind me 100%. But,
kind of racially kind of motivated type.
It just becomes twisted, doesn't it? But, for me in Sikhi, it's right and wrong, and we're told to stand up for the truth. And this is the truth. As far as I'm concerned, I don't come here with any notes. I don't need to remember it like anything specific, because I'm just telling you how it is.
What's the end purpose of the documentary then? So at first you didn't want to do it, and then you've done it now, and you're hoping, I assume, that the criminal case will start picking up a bit of momentum due to public pressure. Maybe that is also one part of it. What's the end thing you want people to actually take away from it, though? I
want victims to have a safe space to speak. People aren't speaking. Like already, like there's 3 people, like one person in this hasn't spoken because they were told not to speak by our community. That's an issue. So we need to work out, what are the issues in our community that we don't talk about? Why don't we talk about? Why are we scared to name or make excuses for somebody in our own community just because they're Sikh, or just because they're South Asian, or just because of whatever it is, right? Galgia, we talk about, for me in our Sikhi, we talk about all of these things, and yet when somebody came to standing up for the truth, nobody stood up for me, or nobody wanted to and everyone's too scared to. And then as for me, I always say, don't share na ban ke dikhao if you can't.
Yeah.
You know,
when
don't
you
give
need
me
to
all
do
that.
it.
Manuna lecture though, je tusi mere naal khade nahi ho sakde. It's
Yeah.
so people are kind of scared to say a little. I said, I'm not the perfect Sikh, but I'm trying my best to do the right thing. And I know doing the right thing isn't easy. And you think of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, when he first started speaking, people thought he was mad.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same thing. It's like people are going to think I'm mad. It's okay. But we all know what right and wrong is. We know what she did is wrong. Why are we arguing with it? Why are we arguing about it? Yeah. I can be stupid. I can be naive. I can be all those things.
But even with that, still wrong. Yeah.
Still
even
wrong.
with that. Yeah. Whether you worked it out straight away, whether it took you this amount of time to work it out, whatever, still wrong. And with the criminal case, so are you wanting her to be convicted? Like, as in you wanted to have a saza, or is it more the fact that it becomes, you know, like in law, they have certain cases that become like the D case, the statutory case, and therefore now other cases can be tried in the same way. Is that the reason you wanted to push it there, or is it you want her to have saza? Like, what is it you want from
I just want her to be held to account. I'm not saying what her saza is going to be. That's not my job to say.
That's for the criminal courts, yeah.
That's what the criminal court needs to deal with and do. And she needs to be held to account. We need to find out using, through this, how many people have been impacted, how they've been impacted, right? It's only fair that we know these things. We need to know how, in the public interest, we need to know how these things can happen so we can stop them from happening. If you don't know how they're happening, we can't stop them from happening. Yeah. And for victims, just like we need to change the rhetoric. We need to change how we look at things. Like how many people under your post, there's I've seen some of the comments under what you posted. And it's like, how many of them have questioned Simran?
Yeah.
How many of them have questioned Simran?
No, they all question you.
And that's the whole thing. Like, I'm just thinking what you said there. If there were a criminal case, the minimum is you'd have to be on a stand and actually be examined and questioned and have to, like, in England, there's no like, I take the fifth and I don't want to speak. At minimum, because that's none of that. Nothing's come out from her side at all. And you're right. Because you have a voice, everybody's coming to you.
On the target. Red flag didn't care. Who talked about red flags like 10 years ago? This is all new vocabulary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Catfish it's not, that's changed. But, we talk about sort of boundaries and narcissism and sociopaths and coercive. All this is new vocabulary.
It has been there, but it's so much more popular now in terms of...
the clinical terms
I think
being
dating
turned
shows
into popular.
Dating shows have made that vocabulary much more popular and mainstream, such as terms like gaslighting, coercive behavior, all that stuff. That's now much more well known for what the definitions are. People might misuse them, but at least it is being used and there's more awareness as to what an example of that looks like. I think gaslighting was entered into like the Oxford Dictionary Word of the Year a couple of years ago because it was so used.
Triggering gets to me. I always say to people, is it a trigger or is it an emotional memory? I always say that because trigger, I have PTSD, right? So I can't, if I am triggered, I can't control my response.
Yeah.
And I've learned over the last 6 years to manage it. But like, if it's like you can't control your response, but if it's an emotional memory, it's an emotional memory, but it's not quite the same thing. Mm-hmm. Like I've got emotional memories attached to things which upset me, but I've learned to put attach new memories to those things. So I've reclaimed things, but that's not the same as a trigger. So it's like understand that clinically, those terms mean something different. And when you use them like just haphazardly, it's just not fair on people who really struggle. So I work in hospital. I work in the front door. And the number of times people use the word I'm depressed. It's like actual depression, clinical depression, like you just mentioned there, is a whole different thing. Yeah. But again, we just use I'm a bit down becomes I'm depressed. Yeah.
And then Punjabi mein dukhi hai. Like we just use all these terms loosely. It's like no.
Yeah, good. And you call me dukhi all the time, and you know the real lengths of what that looks like. So maybe you should stop.
One second. Safe space, right? You are a dukhi person. Like there's no getting away from that.
I'm not. I'm actually not.
Bro.
I'm genuinely not.
I sit with you, and then when you leave, I have to go and make myself happy.
No, shut up. No, you don't.
Let me know ice cream colado. I was like, he just offloads.
If you did, we wouldn't have made it 3 years deep into this podcast. Okay, don't do this.
I've told you this numerous times. Your wife, my best friend, okay, is the reason we are friends. Siddhi ji
Lies.
gall hai.
Absolute
Okay.
lies.
So
Absolute
look,
lies.
that's how you see it. You know, you need both. There you go. You need both to make the
Oh,
podcast,
okay.
right?
That's
Geet,
सही
whose
गल
side
है.
are you on? Okay, whose side are you on?
I'm saying you need
Alright.
both. You need
गाल
both,
तो
right?
सही है. गाल तो सही है. Okay, don't gaslight her now. Okay, gaslighting ना कर तू.
Oh
But
god, I
yeah.
think that's a good way to end the episode. I feel, but Geeta, thank you for your time. I think people should go and check out the documentary. I would say if you haven't watched this or listened to it, we've given you all the spoilers now. Sorry, but go and listen to the audio first and then watch the Netflix series.
Yes.
Can I
I'm
ask
quite
a
interested
question?
in seeing how people do it the other way now, where they'll watch the documentary and then they'll listen to the audio after.
And then Indy, they're watching our podcast from 2 years ago. We looked at our views today. We had a spike.
Yeah, it was weird.
Our original
So-
review.
Oh, did you? I didn't hear your
So,
review from
so-
the
I think it was like 3 years ago. It was really bad. Our lighting was terrible. It was when we were in our like really early stages. And that's just like had massive numbers. I'm like, oh, people were watching this old episode. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because people are now looking for content
For other
on
takes
Sweet Bobby
on-
and they're typing it in
Yeah.
to YouTube, and now everybody's looking for it. So
crazy.
It is crazy. I think the thing I will take away and again tell people is you need to understand the nuance, right? And I think this is the point. It's not black and white. It's not as oversimplified. Hopefully from this podcast, you're getting more of that nuance. And you know, I really enjoyed this conversation. I wasn't there last week with you on Netflix. I didn't know what you'd be like. I've seen you in things, but you come across, and like you've said at the start, as a positive, bubbly person who's just, you know, cracking on like, this is what it was. I'm going to create awareness. I'm not an activist. Like, you're very clear with what you want to do, which I love.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's it. No, this is I'm going to carry on doing what I'm doing and being Kirat.
Oh, also, I wanted to say big shout out to you, Keith, for actually pushing Netflix for running a premiere, because that's, as you said, it was quite uncommon for them to do that. So for you to invite people to come along and watch it and then to give their take on it and to ask you those difficult questions afterwards, big respect, honestly.
Yeah, I think because they haven't done any minority, like they haven't got, no, we were talking about it. They haven't done enough programs, documentaries, which are representative of
the wider
society or community. And they don't understand the nuances themselves. And I'm like, you don't understand, like, when this comes out, how it's going to impact me and my community. And I think we need to buffer our community. I think we need to start having these conversations in our community. But wider society doesn't understand the nuances. I said, you'll watch, she did sit there and watch how I could explain something very easily and you all understood, but it would take me like 10 minutes longer to explain that.
Because you have to explain the bit that goes to that, the bit that goes to that, the bit that goes to that.
But we're like, well, yeah, I get it, man.
Yeah, we get it.
Yeah.
You know.
And they're like, but why would you allow that? Look, this is like 100 generations. And
it's like, like operating, which we, like, I'm in a relationship, bro zone. Simple. Dal khatam. There's not going to be no doubt. That's it. Rakri. I talked about it. I did. I used to tag him on like Rakri Day, like, even though we don't buy Rakri, and we just like, still, it's nice to remember your brother and sister. We tag him in the post and wish him happy Rakri. So that's how, and I think there was a gasp in the room when I said that. I don't know if that was in your session or another session.
No, it wasn't.
When I said that, that was in the second session. Then when I said that, it was like, yeah, see? It's just that understanding's there without me having to explain what that means. But
nuance.
I just hope more victims have I just want to create a safe space for victims to speak up, be able to speak, and that it's not in public necessarily, but at least go to the police in the first instance and be believed and do what they need to do, and none of this would have to happen like I've had to do.
And I guess the other thing is, like you said, you had that, your mom had a change of heart, right? And you'd want more, whether it's moms or other immediate family members, to be like, no, we don't need to push this under the carpet. Let's talk about this. Yeah. And what was it, final thing for me, what was it that flipped mom into "Nahi galta"? We need to do something about it.
I think for the positives that came out of the podcast, like helping people.
Okay.
And just seeing the evidence and having another person, with the podcast, it was having another person tell it.
Objectivity. Okay.
That objectivity.
Big objectivity.
Yeah. So it's like somebody else is saying it's believable. And she's like, oh, see, everybody's not going to doubt her now.
Yeah. Okay, it's not just Kirat Tigala.
Yeah, like everybody's understanding. People are understanding, and you've got experts there going, "This is crazy. This is crazy." You know,
Okay.
so there's experts talking now on there, so it's very objective in that way. And I just think for the number of messages of support we had afterwards, and people talking about it, and the amount of people who were coming up to me and saying, "Oh, this happened to me. This happened to me. Somebody did something like this, or my community was like this with me," and you see the problems, and it's like you begin to see that
the patterns.
Yeah, and I just want that safe space for victims, and just us as a society to change our attitude to it's okay because it's on the internet, it's not real, it's that kind of thing. It's everything's real. We're doing this online. I'm not sitting with you in a room.
And it was very intentional. It wasn't. It's like it's not a crime because it's not like a knife into the back. But you know what I mean? It's like okay, it's not considered real. Yeah,
but when you buy something online, it is, isn't it? When you sign a contract online, it is, isn't it? And what we're doing right now this is, isn't it? So, internet is real life for all of us now. It's a part and parcel of life. So you can't ignore the importance of things, and loads of crimes take place online all the time, and we need to take them seriously.
Perfect. Kirat, thank you so much. People, we will catch you next week, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Thank you guys for watching. Check out the rest of our episodes here, and don't forget to subscribe here. We'll see you guys on the next one.